You all need to choose best system, as much best system as possible. You have to define your system as best as possible. Like you have to clearly mention these are the entities of my system, and this is how these entities are being connected to each other. Means you can say entities as component as well. Means entities and components are the same terminologies, different meaning in the different context. So you have connected components working together and doing the interactions with each other. So you have chosen and properly defined the entities in your system, and then you have to form a connections between those entities properly. And you have to then in the second step, after defining the system in the first step, you go to the second step. In the second step, you have to do proper representation of that whole entity and entities connections, how these entities are being connected to each other, how these entities are interacting to each other. You have to make a proper table, you have to make a proper matrix, or you have to make a proper graph, or you have to make a proper representation of that entity interactions, so that you can able to analyze those entity interactions in future. And what you have to do in the third step, the representation that you made in the second step, either graph, matrix, or table, then you have to do analysis in the third step. So you have to choose a proper algorithm, graph algorithm, matrix analysis algorithm, adjacency list analysis algorithm. So you have to do analysis with the help of that algorithm as the third part. And you have to keep on refining this process and improving the system entities and definitions of that system entities, interaction between those system entities. Then you have to work more on the better representation of these system entity interactions. Then next you have to improve the algorithm, how you can well customize that algorithm for the analysis of that component interaction, that is entity interactions in the system. Then you can able to draw some conclusions and draw some findings out of them. So this is what you all have to do in the whole project: definition of that system, then formation and designing of that system properly on the which could be visualized in the computer aided facilities. Then you have to do the analysis with the existing algorithms, proper customization of that existing algorithm properly, and then you have to do finding based upon that algorithm, so that you could have some conclusion drawn with that system. And you keep evolving over these three steps. First, defining the system properly, then you keep on doing it in the for loop, keep on defining the system properly, then you properly design that system on graph or table or some matrix. Then again you have to do the proper execution of the algorithm for the better result. So try to make it in the for loop, that you do the 2 3 iteration, that you keep on improving over these three steps for the same project. So this was the purpose of the whole project, and this will give you the learning that how you can analyze the system available on the real world. In the simple word, we can say you have to properly define the system with the three essential way. First was entities, that is also said as components. Then you also need to properly define entity-entity interactions, component-component interactions. Then in the third part, you have to do the proper data structure representation of the interactions, either with the help of graph, matrix, or adjacency list. Then in the final step, you need to apply some algorithm or some suitable algorithm that could help you to do the analysis of that system. And what you have to give it, that algorithm input of that algorithm would be the representation that you have generated. So you have to choose a suitable algorithm that could use that representation as input and generate some good level of information and good amount of information. So these are the things that you have to take care while doing this project. If you want to do the complex analysis or some advanced form of system analysis, so what you can do, you can make the multiple states of the system. Means you can divide the system into the different states that could say that this is version 1, this is version 2, this is version 3, version 4, version 5. So you can make the stages or states of the system, and you can then for the you can do a separate analysis for state 1, you can do separate analysis for state 2, you can do separate analysis for state 3, you can do separate analysis for nth state. For all the n state analysis, you try to merge those results, and by after merging those results you can generate the information, and that information would be useful for your analysis. So this is what it means by doing state series analysis. You can do an state series analysis if you wish, and you can have multiple state analysis. How you can do the multiple state series analysis, multiple state analysis? So you can make multiple graph of the same data set, and when you make the multiple graph of the same data set, you do the analysis for the graph 1 analysis, graph 2 analysis, graph 3 analysis, and you can have graph 4 analysis. And what are these graph 1, graph 2, graph 3? These are representing state 1, state 2, state 3 of the same system, and then you could do the analysis of those that system into the multiple states, and that is we can say as state series analysis. So for advanced analysis, in simple word, we can have a system, and you can break that system into multiple states, and then represent each of the state into some representation of graph, adjacency list, or matrices. And then you have the multiple graphs or multiple matrices and multiple adjacency list, whatever representation you had chosen. So you had a system broken into multiple graphs, and what you have to do, you have to do analysis of those multiple graphs. Either you can do an the that multiple graph analysis into single execution of of an algorithm, or you can do graph 1 analysis, graph 2 analysis, graph 3 analysis, graph 4 analysis, and graph n analysis. So nth graph you can analyze. So n number of graphs you can analyze. Graph 1, graph 2, graph 3, up to graph nth. You have done the analysis and you have generated some results. And for the n different result, means you have n different result. And then you can merge those n different result to generate one aggregated result. So this is what you can do for the advanced form of system analysis. For the project description, you can make groups of 3 members, and you can start uh, doing some project. For example, we'll discuss about the cricket World Cup tournaments that happens every 4 years. So you can have the list of cricket World Cup, and you can arrange the data set like this. And when you had arranged the data set like this, you have uh, per year wise tournaments. So you can make every year as a form of information. So these are having the information for the years, and in that file you can make the information for the tournaments, that internal information for that tournament, that West Indies had won by 17, West Indies had won by 92, India won by 43 runs. So you can store this information, and runner up information. You can have winner information, and you can have venue information. So you can make a table such that which will store this information, and you can collect this table easily, very easily from the Wikipedia. And there are another tables like for the year wise tournament. You can have other information as well. So you can club these two tables together and form a one bigger table based upon the country names. So countries could be entities of your system. Means you can assume the countries as the entities of your system. So what is the system that we are studying? We are studying Cricket World Cup system. And what are the entities we had chosen? We had chosen entity name as countries, and as well as we had chosen location venues as one of the entities, and we had also chosen the player names, like the players who had won the trophy for something like best average, something most run scored in the single World Cup, most hundred. So like Rohit Sharma, Sachin Tendulkar could be, Glenn McGrath could be entities of the World Cup cricket World Cup system, and you can store information for them as well, and you can store information about these players as well. So players, venues, and the cricket team country names could be the entities. All the three could be the entities, and then you find the connections between these entities by making a large table. How will you make that table? You can make table according to your convenience. Means you can make a matrix or adjacency list. You make that adjacency list or table according to your convenience based upon the three entities, like country name, venues where the tournament had been played, and the player names. So these three could be the entities, and you can have the connections between them and the information data behind them. And you can start analyzing that data, like this data you can see. You start analyzing and you find some hidden information, means the report which was not in this table and but could be inferred with this table. So how could you able to recognize that hidden information, like for the decision making, for data analytics purpose? So this was the purpose of making a small system and then representing that system according to your own convenience, and then applying some graph algorithm, and then generating some information. So there are the three steps. Like I chosen Cricket World Cup as my system, and how I defined that system? I defined my system as country name, venues, and the player names as the entities. And I will try to map and connect the information about these entities together, working together. And then I will make, okay, so when I'll make my own table or matrix or the adjacency list, then I could able to map it like a graph, and or the matrix, and then I can execute some of the algorithms, computing algorithms, that can analyze that matrix or some graph, and then we'll generate some hidden information out of it. So this was the third step. So I hope you have got the idea that you have to choose a system first, then you have to map according to your convenience. You have to make the entities. You need to choose entities of that system by yourself. Then you have to make connections between those entities, and then you have to apply some existing algorithm of graph algorithm or matrix analysis algorithms, and then you have to generate the information for the analysis of that whole system. And this will bring out some hidden information. So this was the purpose behind the system analysis. So I hope this was somewhat making you clear that what you have to do in the project.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, bye for today. We'll discuss in the next class.